The story of Pans. Grandma's stories. Vishnu Kaka had invited the entire family for dinner. It was a lavish meal with many courses. Everyone ate to the full, enjoying each dish. After it was over, the children gathered around Kaka as he brought out his big box of pan. They loved watching how Kaka had mixed and chose his ingredients to make delicious pans, which had grown up then ate with blissful looks on their faces. He explained to the children a pan contains betel leaf, betel nut, and lime. But we should use only so much of each ingredient, only when it is a taste good. All seven children wanted to try this experiment on their own. Some of them chewed on only one leaf, some on the nut, and some on the nut and the leaf, or the leaf and one only lime. It was true that the three were not put together. The pan tasted horrible. In fact, Sharon admitted when he added some lime than necessary. Everyone made a big line for the mirror to check if the tongue was red or not. Aji was sitting and chatting with Sharon's mom and watching their antics. Then she called out to them and said, "Children, by this time you all know that the leaf, nut, and the lime on their own taste very bad. Even if you put just two together, it is no good. Only when you add the three in a perfect combination can a pan be eaten, and that's when you get that red color in the pan." Why is that, Aji? Is there any special meaning? Yes, there is a special meaning, and I'll tell you the story which I first heard from my grandmother. Once upon a time, there were two brothers, Banu and Vi. Their parents died when they were young, and Banu brought up his younger brother with a lot of love and care. When Banu was old enough, he married Bharti. She was a gentle, loving person and looked after Veer with such a love as her husband. When Veer was about 20 years of age, he heard that their king was looking for a soldier to join his army as there were going to be a war. We decided to join the army. Oh, how much his brother and sister-in-law cried and pleaded, telling him to remain home with them. They could not bear the thought of boy they had brought up with such affection going so far away from them. But we insisted on becoming a soldier, so they went up, let him go away with a heavier heart and tears in their eyes. For many days there were no news of Vi. The king went to war, vanquished his enemy, and returned. The soldiers who went with him also came back with home. Both the Veer, there was no sign. Day after day, his brother and sister-in-law watched out for him, hoping to see him come walking down the road back home, but there was no one. Then one day, a group of soldiers passed through the village, returning home from the war. Banu called out to them and asked about his brother. Viru, oh yes, so sad and died, in the battlefield. No, he was injured and recovered. Did he not come home? He was on his way home when he fell ill. On hearing this awful news, Banu was deeply saddened. He decided he would not live at home waiting for his dear little brother to return. He would go and look for him. When he told his wife Bharti, too decided to go with him. Together, they set off one day to look for the missing Veer and bring him home. They decided to go to the site of the king's big battle where Veer was last seen by his companions. This place was far away, and he had to travel through forests and valleys and mountains, and deserted to walk and walk over many miles. But poor Bharti was not strong enough. One day, after traveling through the thick forest, they reached a little hamlet. Bharti sat down exhausted. Then, to Banu's great horror, she died out of sheer exhaustion. Unable to bear the grief, Banu too died immediately. Over many years, in the place where the couple had died, two trees grew. One was a tall tree, and the other creeper that hugged the tree. It was as if the Bharti and Banu were together even in death. Meanwhile, Vi, the brother they had loved so deeply, was not really dead. He had got terribly wounded in a war and spent many years recovering from the injuries in a little village far away from home. When he finally recovered, he came back as fast as he could to his old house, knowing how anxious his family would be for him. But imagine his surprise when he found the house locked and bolted up, and then for many years. Slowly the neighbors gathered around and told him about Banu, who had decided to go looking for his lost brother. That night we cried many bitter tears. How could he find his loving brother and sister-in-law now? Where were they? By the time morning dawned, he had made up his mind he would try and go the way they had traveled and find them. Immediately he set off. He was a soldier. He had only lately recovered from many wounds and was not too strong. It took him many days to walk across the difficult land. Banu and his wife had crossed. Then one day near the forest he came across a little shrine. The villagers told him the sad story of how the shrine came to be. Years ago, a couple had arrived at the spot, tired from days of walking. Legend had it that they were on the way looking for the long lost brother. When the two died without fulfilling this wish, two wonderful plants, unknown to anyone earlier, had grown up at the spot. The leaves and the nuts of the trees were so sweet and refreshing that the villagers decided to build a small temple for the man and woman in the place. We listened to the story with growing sorrow. He realized that the couple they talked about was none other than brother and his wife. Unable to bear the news, he returned to the statue of limestone. Do you know how they have all been remembered ever since? The tall tree grew nuts called areca nuts, and the creepers leaves were pan or beetle leaves. And from the statue came the lime test that is added to preparation of pan. And this is how this loving family came together even after death. Together they taught people the value of love, unity and loyalty. And when people chew pan, they remember this story about them. Sharon's mom was surprised to hear the story. Really, Aji, even I was not aware why these three ingredients are always used to make the pan. I too will come to listen to your stories from now on. And chewing pan is not good for your teeth, everyone. Off you go to brush your teeth. Payasam or for a beer. Acha and Vishnu Kaka were planning something. They could be spotted grinding and nodding and whispering. The children were dying to know what it was. Then one evening they finally broke the news. They were all going on a picnic. It would be a picnic at the nearby falls. These waterfalls were really beautiful, with the river meandering close by and the forest just across. The children got even more excited when the two grandpas revealed the rest of the plan. Tomorrow would be the rest day for Aji and Sharon's mother, because all the cooking would be done by them and the children, and they would do it with the traditional way by gathering firewood and then cooking the meat from scratch. The children were so excited they would hardly sleep that night. All they could talk about was picnic and what they would cook. Before nodding off, they decided the menu. Pulao and kheer, payam or kheer, is so easy to make, and who doesn't love it? Next day, even the usual late risers woke up and about ready to set out for the picnic by 7 o'clock. Oh, what a beautiful spot it was. They all ran around exclaiming over everything and getting ready with the cricket bats and balls for a game. Aji sat comfortably under the big tree. Then it was time to get lunch ready. Everyone started looking for twigs to use as firewood. Aji spotted Divya straying towards the dense thicket of trees and called out, "Divya, come back and don't go there. Who knows what animal is there? And on top of that, you are all going to cook payayam." "Why, Aji, what does payayam have to do with animals?" "But bears love payayam, don't you know?" Everyone declared that they never known this piece of information. So cooking the games forgotten, young and old gathered around to hear the story of the bear who wanted to eat payasam. Did you know that you must never ever anger a bear? It is true. An angry bear can do some really awful things. So it is always safer to keep your word to him. Poor Mohan and Basanti did not know this and tried to trick the bear and see what happened to them. Mohan had a banana plantation where he grew delicious bananas. He also had a huge mango tree that provided him with baskets of juicy mangoes every summer. He would sell these fruits in the market and lived happily enough with his wife Basanti. Once his trees yielded on an exceptionally large crop of bananas and mangoes, and he decided to sell them in the market in the city, where he would get a high price for them. So off he went with the sacks and baskets to the city. There he sat in the market, told everything that he had brought, and made quite a bit of money. At the market, he ran into an old friend, Amar. Mohan and Amar were overjoyed to see each other after many years. "Come to my house, dear friend. Let us enjoy a good meal and talk about our childhood days." Mohan thought this was a wonderful idea. Went to Amar's house. The two friends had huge quantities of rice, dal, lovely vegetables, and all kinds of sweets. And finally, out came the best part of the meal, the payasam. Payasam is known by many names all over India. Some call it kheer, some pesh, others payasam. It is made with milk, rice, jaggery, and many other ingredients, and it's always yummy. So the payasam that Amar served his friend, it was made with fragrant rice, creamy milk, sweet as sugar, and jaggery, and stewed with nuts, cardamom, saffron, and all kinds of wonderful mouth-watering things. Mohan ate and ate bowl after bowl of this dessert till he was ready to burst. Then the two friends chatted and rested till it was time for Mohan to head back home. When he reached his house, he told his wife about the scrumptious meal, particularly the pies he had eaten. Oh, how Basanti sighed and longed to have tasted this dish too. Seeing her face, Mohan suggested, "See, I have earned plenty of money by selling the fruits. Why do not buy some of the things required to make the pies, which you can cook and both of us will enjoy together?" Basanti thought this was a wonderful idea, but first Mohan needed to go to the forest to collect some firewood. Then he would go to the shop and get all that was required to make the dessert. So off Mohan went, swinging his eggs and listening a tune. Now who would be sitting dozing under a tree in the forest but a big black bear? He had just had some nice berries for lunch and was enjoying his snooze when Mohan walked by. First the bear opened one eye, then another, and watched as Mohan cut a few branches of a nearby tree and collected twigs for firewood. Just as Mohan was trying it all up in a neat bundle, the bear spoke up. "Hi there, friend. Where are you off to such a happy mood? And why are you collecting so much of firewood? Tell me, are you cooking a feast tonight?" Mohan was astonished and a little scared. "Yes, Your Honor. Yes, beer, sir." The beer was happy. After his meal, so he decided to chat some more with Mohan. "So tell me, what are you going to cook tonight?" "Payasam." "Paya what?" "Payasam. It is a sweet dish." "Tell me more." So Mohan described payasam and how it is made. He talked about milk, rice, nuts, jaggery. Beer's eyes started flaming. His stomach started rumbling, and he realized he absolutely, totally needed a tasty this wonderful human food. "Oh, Mohan, my dear friend, do let me come and share your payasam tonight." A beer as a guest for dinner? Who knows how much he would eat? But neither could he say no. That seemed so rude, and the beer was looking at him hopefully. "All right, you can come, but to cook so much payasam, I will need much more firewood. Can you bring that with you?" Cunning, Mohan thought. He would make the bear do his work for him, so he would not need to come to the forest for the next few days. "Yes, yes. Just tell me how much firewood you need. 10, 20, 30 bundles. 50 would be enough." Then he slung his bundle of firewood over his shoulder and went back home. On the way, he bought lots of rice, milk, and everything else that would need to make the payasam. When he reached home, he told Basanti about the unusual guests who would come to share the dessert. So Basanti cooked a huge quantity of payasam. She added lovely nuts, aromatic saffron, sweet cardamoms, and many wonderful things into it as she cooked. Oh, how marvelous the payasam smelled! Unable to wait any longer, the two started eating, helping after helping of the dish, without waiting for their beer guests to turn up. They ate and ate and ate till they realized that they had eaten up everything. There was not a grain of rice, not half a nut left for him. They sat around wondering what to do. What would they say to the bear when he came expecting to eat payasam? Then a devious plan into the Mohan's head. What if they made the payasam with all kinds of other ingredients? After all, it was only a beer and he had never tasted this dish earlier. So how would he know what it really tasted like? The naughty man and his wife then took a little bit of the milk, added lots of water to it, threw in a handful of rice, and instead of jaggery and nuts and spices, they added bacon and sand and cardamoms, husk and stirred the mixture till it looked something like payasam. They placed the brass pot filled with this in front of the house and went to a hid in the bushes somewhere in the back. As soon as the night fell, the huge dark figure appeared down the road. On his back it carried the 50 bundles of firewood. It was the bear come to dinner. He reached Mohan's house, looked around. There was no one. Then right in front of the house he potted the pot full of payasam. Unable to wait any longer, he flung down the bundles he had carried and fell upon the payasam. Only after he had eaten more than half the potful did he realize something was wrong. The milk was watery, the rice was half cooked, and there was horrible grit and fables between his teeth, and ugh! Oh, how angry he was now! Furious, he shouted out, "Mohan!" But Mohan was cowering behind the bushes and did not reply. Now angrier than ever, the bear spotted the mango tree and rubbed his back against it. Mangoes came raining down. He shook the tree so hard the bear continued to stamp and shake the tree till it fell with a huge crash right onto the banana field and crushed the best banana plants. Seeing the firewood he had gathered all the way from the forest lying around, the bear started throwing them around. One fell into the oven in the kitchen and set fire to the house. Soon Mohan and Basanti's house was in flames, his field in ruins, and his prized mango plant destroyed. Finally, satisfied with what he had taken as revenge, the bear stormed back to the forest. When Mohan and his wife crawled out of their hiding place and came back home, they saw everything was in ruins. How they wailed and wept and wished they hadn't been so greedy as to not leave the bear with share of payasam. But what was the use of lamenting now? The damage was done, and the greedy couple had learned what I told you earlier: never anger a bear. And if you make a promise of one, keep it. Beautiful. Fire on the beard. What a grand picnic everyone had. They played and ate and splashed in the water till late evening. Archie and Archie had to drag them back home. That night the children tumbled into bed and were fast asleep even before Archie switched off the lights. Quietly, she tucked them in. The next morning there was no sign of anyone waking up. Archie went about their work, not waking the children. But when it was 10 o'clock, Archie decided they would have to wake up now. So she came into the room, found all four were up and chatting in bed. She looked at them for a while with hands on hips. "So I think you have had enough rest. Now up, all of you, wash up and get ready. I will give you lunch by 12 o'clock. All the others jumped up except Anand. He grinned and said, "You know I can live without food if I get to lie in bed all day." "Really? So be it." Everyone else, "Lunch will be ready at 12, so be there on time." Oh, those who lie around in bed also miss the afternoon story. Then she walked off, trying to make a smile. Anand and Mr. Meal, he was the one who loved his food the most. Anand was quiet. The rest sprang out of their beds and went to brush their teeth and had a bath. Soon the aroma of onion dosa wafted through the house. It was too delicious to resist. Everyone gathered in the kitchen to help grind the dosa batter. By now, Anand was bored and hungry. Lying alone in bed, he quietly went and took his bath. He was worried. What if Archie had taken him seriously and not kept a share of the dosa for him? And what if he had to miss the day's story when Archie saw him? Appear at the kitchen and join in. She laughed and said, "You have become like bridge." "Who's bridge, Archie?" Come on, tell me. Eat dosas. Yawn. Bridge straight out in the sun, yawned loud and long, went back to sleep. Is Bridge a rich man on a holiday, or has he worked hard all day and is just resting for a while? Neither. Bridge was the laziest, most good-for-nothing fellow you'll ever meet. He would spend entire days just lying around on his bed doing nothing. He was too lazy to even trim his beard, and it had grown right down to his knees. All day he sat around combing it and admiring it, doing nothing else. His mother would call him, his wife would scold him, but Bridge was not one to mend his ways. This is how most conversations with his wife Shanti would go. "Can you get some water from the well?" "There is no water in the house. The well is dry. There is no water there." "Can you fetch some water for the pond at least?" "The pond is too far. I can't walk so much for a pot of water." "Then pluck those coconuts from a tray." "Oh, those coconuts are still tender. Let's pluck them next month." "What about getting some areca nuts from the tree then?" "Don't you know areca nuts are not good for health?" "Help me plow the field then." "It is not too hot. The sun will burn my skin. It is better if you two did not go there." "Can you at least cook after the house?" "When I am in the field, there is nothing to look after the house." and so on and on. Bridge would make excuses for not doing any work that was asked of him. Of course, he was never too tired to eat. As soon as his wife would lay out the meal, he would jump out of bed saying, "Oh, you have prepared food for me with such love. It is my duty to eat it." And then he would gobble down all that was given. When evening fell, Bridge would roll out on bed and comb his hair and beard and set off to meet the gang of friends. Seeing how he managed to get out of doing any work, many others in the village had decided to do the same. All these people had formed a club, the Idlers Club. They would meet every evening and sit around and talk about all kinds of things. They claimed that way they were improving their general knowledge, but all they were doing was gossip and boast. Bridge, as the leader of the club, would get to boast the loudest and longest. One day the topic was about the laziest of all. Bathing every day is such a waste of time and precious water. I take the bath once in 2 days. That way I even save water. Said Manoj, the environment. I never make my bed, said Suresh. Why bother when you have to lie down in it once again at the end of the day? I eat my food out of the vessel in which it is cooked. Putting the food in the plate only increases the work for you. Will need to wash it too. I'm always cool and calm. Why, even if my beard were to catch fire, I would start digging a well at the time and never store water close at hand. As these discussions were happening, a real fire broke into the village. It burned down buildings and roofs and sheds, crackling and throwing up sparks, making villagers run helter and shelter looking for water to douse the flames. The Idlers Club heard all the commotion, but no one bothered to step out to see what was happening, what was going on. They only asked each other, "Oh, nothing. Must be some circus or the other." So what were we talking about? By now the fire was spread to the road. It was fast making its way to the house where the idlers were sitting. It got hotter and hotter. Brisk's friends had started sweating and getting nervous now. Soon the roof of the house got fire. Still Brisk kept saying, don't worry, it will rain now and I'll put this out. Then the wind is blowing in the opposite direction and will blow it down. We are really cool people. We should not be afraid of a fire. Finally, his friends could stand it no longer and rushed screaming out of the house. But Bridge was too stubborn and refused to move. Finally, the fire caught up with him and heard. His beard started getting singed. Not even Bridge was scared. "Help! Help!" he shouted. "Now you can start digging the well. Oh, get me some water from the pond. That's too far away. Maybe it will rain." By now the beer was burning away merrily, and all Bridge could do was leap and dance away from the flames, till suddenly there were splashes and splashes of water. Someone was emptying cool water on the fire and putting it out. Bridge could not believe his luck. Who had saved him? Why, it was Shanti and many other women of the village who had worked hard and drawn water from the wells and the ponds to save their homes. Finally, Bridge learnt his lesson. Being lazy and pretending to be cool had certainly not helped him in his hour of need. So he shaved off his half-burnt beard, woke up early each morning and did all that Shanti told him to do and more. I grew. Love you, God. I hope you children love it too. The story of Pan. Grandma's stories. Vishnu Kaka had invited the entire family for dinner. It was a lavish meal with many courses. Everyone ate to the full, enjoying each dish. After it was over, the children gathered around Kaka as he brought out his big box of pan. They loved watching how Kaka had mixed and chose his ingredients to make delicious pans, which had grown up, then ate with blissful looks on their faces. He explained to the children a pan contains betel leaf, betel nut, and lime. But we should use only so much of each ingredient, only when it is a taste good. All 7 children wanted to try this experiment on their own. Some of them chewed on only one leaf, some on the nut, and some on the nut and the leaf, or the leaf and one only lime. It was true that the 3 were not put together. The pan tasted horrible. In fact, Sharon admitted when he added some lime than necessary. Everyone made a big line for the mirror to check if the tongue was red or not. Aji was sitting and chatting with Sharon's mom and watching their antics. Then she called out to them and said, "Children, by this time you all know that the leaf, nut, and the lime on their own taste very bad. Even if you put Just two together, it is no good. Only when you add the three in the perfect combination can a pan be eaten, and that's when you get that red color in the pan. Why is that, Aji? Is there any special meaning? Yes, there is a special meaning, and I'll tell you the story.